Hi, welcome to Petradot, and in today's lesson we are going to be talking about the nested loop. The nested loop is a loop inside another loop, right? And in most cases we are going to be using this nested loop is when you are going to be iterating or performing an action around a multi-dimensional data structure like a 2D array. Don't worry, 2D array is part of the lessons we are going to be doing in future. So if you don't get it clearly now, just know that 2D array is just like something like a table where you have rows and columns of data, and each of these rows and columns contains information, and you want to print them out for the user on the output, right? So that is where the nested loop comes to play. So probably the outer loop will serve for the row while the inner loop will serve for the columns, right? So the nested loop is just a loop inside another. Okay, let's use for example, if we have a table, say a table where the row we have something like the row is 4. We have 4 rows in a table, and the column is something like 3, right? So we have a table that is containing 4 rows and 3 columns, right? So we want to print out the data in this table in a tabular format, right? So what we are going to do is, let's create a loop to loop over the row. First of all, system.out.println. Now I want to print out the items in this row. Remember, we said that the row is 4 in number, right? So if we run this program, we are going to have something like this: 1 to 4. These are our 4 rows, right? So if we are to print items, the column means we have to align the column per line. These are the rows, so each of them will appear per line of the row. So since we have defined the row, so we are going to have the column inside, which is another loop. So we are going to define another one for int j. If you watch, we are using two different naming here. The outer loop is using for int I, right, while the inner one is using for int j, so as to differentiate them. If you use I, it will show an error because we have defined I before, right? So variable is already defined in the scope, so hence why we are going to be using a different variable name. So at this point now, let us print out the value of the rows and the columns. Yes, so I have to print out the value of the rows and columns. So the row is representing I, while the column is j, right? So let me create a space. Since we are going to be using print, all of them will appear in we'll give a space for each other. So let's run this program and see. You can see now these are the whole items, but the issue is the rows are not separated. They all appeared in the same line. So to make them to appear in different line, let us break it up with another print line here, right, so that it will separate them. Let me use a comment: separate each row from the other. That is what this print line is doing. All right, let's run this code again and see. You can see now. All right, let's analyze this. This output here is saying row 1 column 1, row 1 column 2, row 1 column 3. So what it means is we are still in row 1 and we looped over the columns 1, 2, 3, right? That is exactly what is happening here. So when this program runs, it starts with iterating over the row. But when it came to the first row, it noticed that it has about 3 columns. So what would it do? It will loop over the 3 items in the columns and print all of them first, right? Before it now goes back to continue to the next iteration of the row, which is the second one. That is when we entered row 2. Then we printed column 1 again. Still in row 2, we printed column 2. Still in row 2, we printed row 3. And when we are done, we go to the next iteration of the row, which is the third line you are seeing here. That is row 3, column 1, row 3, column 2, and still in row 3, column 3, right? When it is done, it goes back to the next iteration of the row, which is the last one here. That's where I seen row 4 here, column 1, row 4, column 2, and row 4 again, column 3. Exactly how it is happening. So for each iteration of the row, the column completes its own iteration. This is exactly how the nested loop works. So for each iteration of a nested loop, the outer loop completes before the inner loop does the inner loop completes before the outer loop goes to the next iteration. All right, so I hope this is clear. So let's, instead of printing these items, let us make it a symbol. Let's say we have an asterisk printed. So we want it to print an asterisk in a tabular form. So I change those values to this to make it maybe look simpler. Then run this program again and see. You can see now that we'll have the stars. Let's give it a little space here. Let's put a space here so that they will separate each other in each of the column. So run it again. You can see how it is looking. So we have 4 rows and 3 columns. So each of the row looped 3 times because our column is 3 and our row is 4. And this will be the end of the lesson for the nested loop. So don't forget, nested loop is a loop inside another loop. And for each of the outer loop, the inner loop completes its own iteration before the outer loop goes to the next iteration. So if there is any question, do well to use the comment section, and don't forget to like and subscribe. Thank you.